What's growing on, gardeners? Today I'm going to share with you all my favorite water-soluble fertilizer blend. All you have to do is add water, apply it to your plant's roots, and they will grow faster and produce more fruit.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and check out my Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom apparel and gear.
Most fertilizers that I use in my garden are granular, slow-release organic fertilizers like this. These products take time to work because they have to be decomposed by the soil microbiology, all the bacteria and fungi in your soil, in order to break them down and release the nutrients into the soil that your plants can actually use. These products are great to support plants and build healthy soil, but sometimes you need something a little bit more powerful and faster acting. And for that, we have water-soluble fertilizers. Water-soluble fertilizers have been processed either naturally or by humans, depending on the product. These products have already been broken down into usable nutrition for our plants. So when you mix them in water at the recommended dosage and apply them, the plants can immediately uptake that and use the nutrition. As such, water-soluble fertilizers are excellent for correcting nutrient deficiencies, boosting productivity, and help push your plants through times of hard stress, like after a heat wave, persistent heavy weather like I have right now, heavy rainfall, drought, or a pest attack. I primarily use water-soluble fertilizers to increase the productivity of my flowering and fruiting vegetables, as well as choice heavy feeding crops. Some examples are tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, cucumbers, squashes, pumpkins, melons, potatoes, onions, corn, heavy feeding leafy green brassicas like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, some lettuces, any of my container grown fruit trees, including my fig, citrus, and coffee trees, as well as my in-ground fig trees. The relatively balanced NPK formulation I am going to share with you in this video is an excellent choice to apply every 2 weeks, that's twice a month, to the crops I just listed. So, why is this fertilizer blend so beneficial? Well, generally speaking, vegetable gardens are unsustainable man-made systems that demand more from the soil that the plants put back into it. Virtually every crop I just mentioned on that list is a non-native species that has been bred by humans for centuries and in no way resembles its native wild ancestors. They have high nutrient demands, they rob your soil of the nutrients that they need, and they give very little back. So we humans have to bridge that nutrient gap by adding fertilizer and balancing the nutrient equation. Without constant human intervention, these plants won't survive long term. Don't believe me? Go plant out a vegetable garden in April and completely ignore it for a few years and see what happens. Almost everything will die off and your garden will be overtaken by native weeds and plants. This isn't like a permaculture food forest. Our vegetable gardens need us to survive, and I have found this fertilizer blend provides incredible abundance. But just to be clear, this water-soluble fertilizer blend is not the only thing that you should be adding to your garden. You should still add fresh compost to your soil every spring. You should still be adding the slow-release granular organics and soil amendments that feed and build your soil. You should still keep your soil and plants protected by maintaining a natural mulch layer at all times. This water-soluble blend is the rocket fuel that turns your plants into Olympic athletes, maximizing their production and your harvests, as well as using it as a tool to correct nutrient deficiencies and help your plants recover from environmental stresses like I mentioned earlier in this video. For all of my fertilizing practices, I will link to a playlist both above and down in the video description. Now I will share my fertilizer blend with you. If you are interested in any of the fertilizer products that I am featuring in this video, I will place direct links down to all of them in the video description for your convenience. For the vast majority of people, for this step, you will only need 2 different fertilizers to make my favorite water-soluble fertilizer blend. One is Jack's 20-20-20 and the other one is Azomite. Jax 20-20-20 is a balanced NPK water-soluble fertilizer that you simply add to water at the recommended dosage, and it is immediately bioavailable to your plants. It is a synthesized fertilizer, so it has already been broken down in a laboratory for your plant's use. Now, you don't exactly have to use Jax 20-20-20. This is J.R. Peters 20-20-20. J.R. Peters owns Jax, so it is practically the same product, but any similar water-soluble 20-20-20 will do. And then there is azomite. Azomite is a mined product from an ancient volcanic ash deposit in Utah. They mine it, and it is loaded with tons of different trace micronutrients. So I like to mix them together, because when you add the powerful water-soluble Jax 20-20-20, and then you add the trace micronutrients to it, you get a very, very strong fertilizer that is packed with all the micro and macronutrients that your plants need for the most part to grow very strong and robustly. Now, if you really want to take things to the next level, I also have this, which is Jax Blossom Booster 10-30-20. So this is a lower nitrogen, higher phosphorus formula that is made specifically to help your plants bloom and fruit more heavily without putting too much nitrogen into them to impact very, very strong leafy green growth and get them to put too much energy and vigor. Because right now we're sliding into the back half of July, and my plants, like my tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, things like that, they're mostly in the heavy blooming and fruiting cycle. I'm going to choose to mix these two together to cut down on the amount of nitrogen overall and boost the amount of phosphorus overall, but it's not necessarily necessary. You can get away with just using the 20-20-20 and the azomite if you wish. I will give you formulations for both blends for your convenience. If you want to keep things simple and simply blend the 20-20-20 and azomite, you can do it at a ratio of 4 parts 20-20-20 to 1 part azomite. If you would like to influence more to the blooming cycle later in the season, you can also blend together 2 parts of the bloom booster, 2 parts of the 20-20-20, and 1 part azomite. So you'll still have a grand total of 4 parts of the water-soluble fertilizer and 1 part of the azomite. How you do it is your choice. Now, like I said, because we're moving into late July, I'm going to do 2 parts of the 20-20-20. So basically 1 trowel scoop, 2 trowel scoops, and then I'm going to do 2 trowel scoops of the 10-30-20 bloom booster. And you'll see I'm kind of winging this. This is not an exact science. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to make fertilizing very complicated. Just get it as close as you possibly can. And then I'm going to put 1 trowel scoop of the azomite in there, like you see right here. And then we are going to take our trowel and we are going to mix it up really well, so all of the fertilizers are blended and incorporated evenly. Alternatively, you could also take a container with a lid and you can put the fertilizers in there and put the lid on tightly and then just shake it around. I just made a double batch of what I just showed you, and this can be a little bit easier than mixing it up by hand. And that is our completed fertilizer blend. So, now that we made our water-soluble fertilizer blend, how do we apply it? Well, there are 2 very simple ways to apply it. And the first way is the most common way. Simply add it to a watering can, add water, mix well, and pour around the root areas of your plants. And here I have 3 1.5 gallon watering cans. Now, you want to mix this in water for your outdoor plants at a rate of 1 tablespoon per gallon. So because we have 1.5 gallon watering cans here, I have a 1.5 tablespoon scooper. So I'm going to fill this up roughly level, and I'm going to dump 1.5 tablespoons into each watering can. Now, in reality, this one's really a 2 gallon watering can. It's slightly bigger, so I'm going to give this just a little touch more to make sure the ratio stays consistent. Now, on top of this, I'm also going to add 1 more product, Alaska Fish Fertilizer. This is my secret weapon that is not so secret that I've told millions of people about. I love this stuff. It's made out of basically fermented fish parts that are ground up into a paste. So in here is all the concentrated nutrients inside a fish. Every macro and micronutrient that you can imagine. I absolutely love this stuff. I always add it to my watering cans, just give it a good shake, and each watering can gets about 2 to 3 tablespoons per gallon. So I'm just going to eyeball it and give each watering can about 3 tablespoons or so. It doesn't have to be perfect, just get it close. And then we are going to turn on our water, and we are going to mix the watering cans very well, because it is very important that we mix everything completely so it all dissolves. And now we are going to take the fertilizers that we just mixed in these 2 watering cans right here, and I'm going to give it to the plants in this bed. People often ask me, how many plants can I water with one single watering can? And it's going to be somewhere between the 3 to 6 plant per gallon range, depending on the size of the plant. These are peppers, so we'll be able to give pepper plants less fertilizer than something like an indeterminate tomato or a zucchini that is much larger. An indeterminate tomato or a zucchini will probably be closer to 3 plants per gallon. The peppers are going to be closer to 6 plants per gallon. And I have 18 peppers in this bed right here, and 3 gallons of solutions split between the 2 watering cans, so that will be exactly 6 plants per gallon. It should be just perfect. So I'm going to take the watering cans, and I'm evenly going to distribute the fertilizer around the root areas of all the pepper plants. And the second way you can apply the water-soluble fertilizers in your garden is my favorite way, and that is fertigation, which simply means to fertilize through your irrigation system. If you have drip irrigation run to all of your garden beds and all of your individual containers in your container garden, like I do, you can make fertilizing a breeze, and you'll never have to mix fertilizer in a watering can and carry them around ever again. All you need is one of these, a fertilizer injector that you hook up to your garden hose, and it will distribute a regulated amount of the water-soluble fertilizer through your drip lines at the rate that you choose on the machine. This is how the big boys and girls do it, and when you buy something like this, it makes fertilizing a snap. They are very inexpensive, and you'll never have an excuse again as to why you missed your fertilizing schedule, because everything will be connected by drip lines. You just add your water-soluble fertilizer to this, you turn on your spigot, and you just hit go. I will place a link down in the video description to the exact fertilizer injector that I use. They are very inexpensive. I will also place a link both above and down in my video description to all of my drip irrigation tutorials. I have lots of different how-tos as to how to install drip irrigation to any type of garden that I've made over the years. I highly recommend you do so. It is worth the investment, and it automates the process entirely. But before you put the fertilizer in your injector, you have to pre-mix it to make sure it is fully dissolved. So I'm going to take the mix that we just made right here, and I'm going to put a trowel or 2 in there, just like that, and then mix that together to start the dissolving process. And then I'm also going to pour in probably about ½ a cup of the fish fertilizer, because this again is water soluble, and I want to pump that through my irrigation lines as well. After that's added, again, we are going to stir it until everything has been fully dissolved and there is no more sediment feel to the mix. And then, to the best of our ability, we are going to carefully pour this fertilizer blend into our injector. It may be a good idea to use a funnel. And then we are going to connect our tank full of the water-soluble fertilizer to the injection mechanism, which is right here. This is where the injection magic happens. So I'm going to spin the tank in order to connect it to the injection mechanism. And the way this works is as follows. We have the spigot right here. When we turn this on, the water will flow through this pressure regulator right here, which keeps things at 25 psi or less. Any more than that can burst your irrigation lines, your drip irrigation lines. Then I have it on a faucet timer. I'm going to have to put this on manually for the time being, and then it goes through the faucet timer. Then it will flow through this black hose, dump the water from the spigot into the tank, and then it will flow back out through the clear hose and inject into this hose, which then connects to the distribution line that feeds all of my raised garden beds and containers. So we'll turn the system on for 30 minutes. And check that out. You can actually see the fertilizer injecting itself into the system. The reason why it's brown is because we added all of that fish fertilizer to the mix. But if all you used was the Jax 20-20-20, it would be blue. So if you ever wondered why they dye those water-soluble fertilizers colors like blue or pink, that's so you can actually see it when it injects itself through the irrigation lines. So instead of having to painstakingly drag watering cans around, all of those fertilizers are now pumping to our potted trees and to our raised garden beds. Now, are there any plants where I shouldn't apply this water-soluble fertilizer blend? Yes, in my experience, certain plants do not benefit from a strong water-soluble fertilizer. One example is legumes like beans and peas. They are nitrogen fixers and often react poorly to strong fertilizers and very fertile soil. A second example is sweet potatoes. Strong water-soluble nitrogen often inhibits sweet potato root production. If you give your sweet potatoes very fertile soil and ample nitrogen, they often produce huge, gorgeous vines, but puny roots, and the roots are actually what we want to harvest. I plant my sweet potatoes in grow bags in a very sandy mix, give them mostly bone meal and slow-release organics, and I avoid strong water-soluble fertilizers. The only one I'd consider is maybe something like a triple phosphate and potash blend that contains little to no nitrogen, but I don't really do that myself. I will link to a video both above and down in the video description that shares my hard lessons learned about growing sweet potatoes. I don't give root crops this water-soluble blend, like beets, carrots, turnips, parsnips, and radishes. I have found that in order to get adequate bulbing of these roots, they need to grow very slowly. If you hit them with water-soluble fertilizers, they react by growing lots of greens through the tops very quickly, and then root development suffers. When I grow these crops, I put down 1 to 2 inches of compost, direct seed them, sprinkle a tiny handful of granular organic 555 and a dusting of bone meal along the trench line, water them in, and then walk away. I let them grow and take their time. Doing this has never failed me. And finally, my in-ground fruit trees. The only time I ever give my in-ground fruit trees water-soluble fertilizer is that first year or two after I transplant them to help them establish. Transplanting is a completely unnatural event that never happens in nature, and their tiny roots cannot yet seek out all the nutrients they need in the soil. But after those first couple years, I then focus exclusively on soil fertility, building healthy, rich soil via the composting and mulching process. I try to emulate real forest culture with all of my established fruit trees, where I simulate a thick mat of organic matter like falling leaves, branches, and pine needles that break down around the base of the trees, just like in a real forest. No added fertilizers at all. In fact, I have found that supplemental fertilizers can negatively affect established in-ground fruit trees and cause fruit drop. Most established fruit trees growing in healthy soil, these trees, they just don't need additional fertilizer. The roots are so advanced. And if you add it, you'll actually over-fertilize the trees and you can stress them out. The only exceptions to this rule is if a tree is showing a nutrient deficiency like this Sugar Bell citrus tree right here. It's on its 3rd year in ground and it decided to triple its size in only 4 months this year. It has grown so quickly that I am starting to see some yellowing on the trees, so I gave this tree 1 watering can full of the water-soluble blend I just showed you in this video to help correct the deficiency. Keep in mind that this tree right here did not flower and fruit for me this year since it's still kind of a baby trying to establish. If it were carrying a load of fruit, I would not have done this because it could have caused the fruit to drop. And my in-ground fig trees. Figs are not true fruits. They are a syconium, and they do not follow a seasonal bloom pattern. Whereas most fruits flower at a defined time of the year, usually spring, then they spend the rest of the year ripening that crop. Figs produce indeterminately all season long until frost. Along the new wood, they continuously grow throughout the year. Their nutrient demands are so absurd that I have never found it possible to over-fertilize them. I mean, look, I guess it's technically possible, but I've never found a way to do it. They are the only in-ground trees I regularly amend with this water-soluble fertilizer blend. I give it to them once a month, April through August. I'll link to a video both above and down in the video description that shows you exactly how I fertilize my fig trees. And that right there is my water-soluble fertilizer blend that produces incredible results. Again, I apply these to the crops that I listed in this video every 2 weeks, twice a month, and it's worked out great for me for many years. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring the notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. Again, for all of the products that I listed in this video, I place direct links to them all down in the video description for your convenience. For everything I use in real life in my garden, that is all linked in my Amazon storefront in the video description. So expand the video description, click on the Amazon storefront link, and you'll see everything I use in real life. And while you're down there, please consider checking out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support my channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Well, it is an absolutely terrible weather day out here today, but Dale really wanted to go for a walk, so we're out in it, and he's in his rubber ducky raincoat. Now he's deciding he wants to turn around and go back in. He's been all over the place because we have a little bit of rumbles of thunder in the background, and he doesn't really like that. So he's out of sorts. So we're doing the best we can. We didn't get our walk in today, so even a short walk is better than no walk at all, right, buddy? So I guess we'll just go down a couple cul-de-sacs and do half of a walk, and it's better than nothing. At least Daly's getting some good sniffs in this absolutely terrible weather day.